percentage or stat blows my mind every time I look at it. So it's 8% of all YouTube channels are monetized. So the one way to think of that is like this. So all that under the surface is not monetized. These are people that are working content creators, creating content and not getting monetized. And that's not necessarily to discourage you, it's really just to give you that basis, the fact that you might be putting a lot of effort into this, and this is hopefully helping you to avoid that. And at the top there is our friend Mr. Beast. So in terms of about myself, a little bit about me. So I'm Alexi Giovani. I've got 3,800 at last check subscribers, and we're sitting at almost 1 million views, which is great. This particular channel, when I first started, all covers off cozy games. Cozy games, in case you're curious on what it means games that are not necessarily violent. So these are games that you play, farming sims, that sort of stuff, usually associated and originally came from Animal Crossing, which was the game that was pretty much got us out of COVID, because COVID was a drama in itself. But that then created some other games which I enjoy playing, which include Zelda and some other games that involve a little bit of, not blood, but a bit of violence and puzzle solving as well. So that's everything else. So Agmanate stands for a collection of other things, which I thought was a suitable name. And the last channel which I've got as well, which is the smallest and third born, is the Agioteza one. And I'll pause there for a second and see if you can see any correlation between the channel names. I'm used to looking at a camera, so it's a little bit different. Anyone?
Is it your initials?
Yes. So each of the channel names, so pardon my wife if she sees this, Mrs. G, if I have any other channels that are born, they're going to start with AG. So that's just part of a branding side of things that I decided to go with. So you might be wondering, what is monetized? What does it mean to be monetized when it comes to a channel? Well, first thing, it's part of being part of the YouTube partner program, otherwise known as the YPP for short. It means that you need to have, like I said before, 1,000 subscribers, which isn't necessarily an easy feat. And then just to set that bar that little bit higher, you need to add 4,000 watch hours over the past year. So I'll let that sink in for a second. It's the easiest way to see it. And the reason and the point of that is that you do receive revenue. So once you get to that point of being monetized, every time you might be disturbed by watching your content by a stupid ad, it means you're getting paid a little bit of that, little bit of sliver of income coming from YouTube. There is a partly monetized one, and this is a brand new initiative over the past few months. It means you are part of the YouTube partner program, but it means you can enter into the whole scene by having 500 subscribers. You need to have 3 valid public uploads, which means it needs to just be visible, and 3,000 watch hours, which again isn't easy. So what does 4,000 watch hours equates to? What does it equate to? Put simply, it's 240,000 minutes or 240,000 views of a single video that lasts 1 minute. Again, not discouraging you, just trying to put it into perspective. So, but having said that, YouTube is hard. It's probably the hardest job that I've ever had. It's a part-time thing, it's not a job, but it's definitely hard. Because you have to be a videographer, you have to be an editor of film and videos. You need to pull these sort of faces when it comes to thumbnails. You need to be a model. And so it doesn't stop there. You've got to be a photographer, lighting expert, you've got to be an engineer of audio, you've got to be a designer when it comes to thumbnails, you've got to market all your videos, you've got to be a personality on camera. Hello everyone. But the question is it luck or is it skill? So for me, I put this down into two buckets, I guess, in this particular instance. So channel number 1, which is the first one that was born during COVID or just after COVID or during lockdown, it was my creative outlet. It was the only way that I could get out there and sort of do my little creative element of creating videos, because that's just what I like to do. Compare it to the second channel. Both reached this milestone. I just picked this one at random at 800,000 views. But when you look at it in comparison, the second channel actually made it in half the time. So, which I find interesting. Is it luck or is it skill? Could be a combination of both. I think a lot of the time it comes down to timing as to when you release videos and topics and trends, but it's just a little bit of information there, because there's a little bit going out there about whether you release it, and a lot of people say that it's down to skill, not luck at all. So the question is, after all this, why would you want to do it? I mean, I've just painted a really bleak picture at the moment, right? And I probably am a glutton for punishment. So for one, I find it rewarding. So it's a way of sharing your knowledge with the world, whether it's development, whether it's coding, whether it's creation, DIY skills, whatever the case is. It's a way of you showing your expertise with the world and giving your input and almost leaving a legacy of sorts. It enhances your presentation skills, contrary to what I'm doing at the moment, but it's meant to be actually make you a better presenter when it comes down to it. Improve your on-camera presence. So talking straight to the camera is a little bit weird, but as you can see, that's the way it is and that's the way it operates. And becoming a better storyteller. This is one thing that I've tried to get out of this. Is part of my regular job is around trying to create a better storytelling experience. So trying to give an overall experience and telling a story through examples, analogies, and that sort of stuff. So it's all about that sort of stuff. A lot of us have this personal brand that you may or may not be aware of, but it's an opportunity for you to extend that when it comes to presenting to the grander audience. Great way to meet people. I'm going to admit, a lot of the time it does feel a little bit isolating and quiet. Contrary to the fact that you're in front of so many thousand people all the time putting videos and people are watching you, sometimes you do feel a little bit lonely. So you do get an opportunity to meet people through chat and live streams and that sort of stuff, because I do a bit of both as well. And at the bottom there, it's an opportunity to make some money. Whether or not you make a few cents or $1, but we'll cover that off and we'll open that in just a sec. So you might be thinking now, okay, well, I'm in. Let's go. So what should you think about when it comes to starting a YouTube channel, or it might be on Twitch as well? First thing you need to do in suggestion is to pick a niche that you're passionate about. So ideally something that you are knowledgeable about, or something that you are definitely passionate about. But being passionate about something is definitely going to drive you moving forward, because at the end of the day, you need to create all these ideas that come from your knowledge or your craft. You need to start creating, and I'm going to admit, the first video that you're going to create is going to suck. If you want to go back and look at my first video, it sucked. It's the way it is. But you need to get around 25 videos, roundabout, to get that experience down pat. So that's editing, putting it out there, understanding exactly what the audience is going to respond to. And then you have to ask yourself the question, what happens if I'm successful? Because that's going to impact a lot of things. It's going to impact your regular life. It's going to impact your family, your work, your hobbies. So something to think about. So someone once said that, what are the traits of a good creator? So it comes down to 3 different types of things. An engaging voice or a personality. So these are not necessarily all-inclusive. It's usually one of these things. Have really good engaging edits or videos that are keeping people entertained, to keep them watching, and we'll cover off retention in just a second. Or a niche-focused content. Now, if you can get one of these, you're doing something right, and you'll probably have a successful channel. If you can get all 3 of these right, you'll smash it. So that's the trick about getting all of those down pat. Some of you may be asking, well, how do I edit when it comes to some video content? Well, the good news is that this day and age, especially from 2024, late 2023, there is a trend at the moment of putting out very unedited content. So if you think of YouTube, a lot of people think about Mr. Beast and bang, 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 all this sort of flickering stuff that's going on screen. Today's trend is a lot more relaxed. So you can put out a video with very little editing and the audience will actually respond to it. So there's no need for that high energy that Mr. Beast does with those quick transitions and crazy stunts. The 30 seconds at the start of every video are still extremely vital. So when it comes to this day and age, I don't know if you can relate to this, but we're all just sort of like human goldfish. We've got minds like a sieve. We'll watch something for a second, it's like, nah, I don't want that. So the first 30 seconds are very vital in the sense that what you clicked on in terms of a video that you are promised, you need to deliver that as a content creator. You need to prove that they've come into the right place. You need to make them satisfied and happy that they are where they are. So it's very important. And of course, retention is still important. And I'll cover what retention means in just a sec. So you might be thinking this in your very mind. I'm not going to say it because it's probably a PG rated channel, I think. So retention is this funky looking graph that you get in YouTube. So as a creator, for every video that you put out, once it settles after about 24 to 48 hours, you can start to see where the viewers start to drop off. So I don't know if you can make that out, but that line is how active people are throughout your video. So there's a little grey bar that sits there and says that's my average of what my channel does. But you can see there at the very first, that grey bar here. So that is the first 30 seconds. So my job is to try and keep people watching for as long as possible. There's two other parts to this as well. So when it comes to retention, the first 30 seconds, as I said, is very important. I try to go for, so this one here is above typical. So typical is around about 70%. So if you can still have people, 70% of people still watching it after 30 seconds, you're kicking goals. There's another metric that I like to go by, which I'll cover off again in just a moment. 69% in this case for this example is at the 60-second mark. So 30 seconds is the first 30 seconds where you're trying to get people hooked in, and then you've got the remainder to see how that fans out. So personally, this is what I strive for. I like to keep, as I strive for this, don't always do it, but 80% of viewers still watching at the 30-second mark. So that's my chance to hook you in as a viewer to watch it, keep watching it, and retain your attention for as long as possible, despite you being potentially a goldfish. The 70% mark of viewers is what I aim for at the 60% mark. So somewhat, I don't know where I got this stat from, someone said that if you can manage to get 70% of viewers still at the 60% mark, you've got a potential for a viral hit. And then 55% is what I'm aiming for. So still over half of the viewers still watching at the full course of the video. And end the video as quick as possible. So I'll show you now in just a sec as to what this means. So this is an example of one of my early videos when I did a lot of learning. So despite this, I've been doing this for 3 years now. So you can see this really big drop there. That means people lost interest straight away. So obviously I did something or they didn't like it, but it dropped off straight away. And then you can see at the very end is where I started to wind down the talk. I was like, okay, well, thanks for watching. Hit the like button, hit subscribe. Everyone's switched off. They're off to the next video. No one cares. So this is where you try to end that as quick as possible. And here's an example of another video, which you probably can't see with my face there. But as you can see there, the drop off at the very end is still there, but it's a lot more of a cliff face. So it means I've kept everyone for as long as possible. And even if it's just those few seconds at the very end, will actually help the overall retention from a mathematical point of view. So a few tips on things to get started. I would highly recommend investing on a good microphone first. As you can see, we've got microphones as front and center, because if you can't hear, people will get upset. A lot of people are actually, I'll show you this in terms of an evolution, but when it comes to audio, a lot of people, and you might be able to relate to this, is that if you've got good audio, you'll listen to it, even if it's got a bad video. But if it's got, so if it's a bad video, you'll happily watch it. But if it's got bad audio, clicking, crunching, and I'm probably hitting the mic, I'm sorry about the lapel, that will actually turn people off. So definitely involve, if you are considering it, definitely get a good mic. And this is an opportunity here to just reinforce the fact that you need to start off cheap. And I did start off cheap, and this is just a little evolution video. I don't know if this is going to play.
Hey, you channel members, just thought I'd give you a behind-the-scenes look at my desk. I've kept costs low as I got into.
So this is my desk at home, where I had a plank of wood.
For overhead shots and boom mic, but I did
I don't know if you can hear that.
Wi-Fi-enabled lights to control my lighting, and this is my recent hack using these Chinese lanterns to soften the light. Here's my new aluminium case from my existing GoPro, along with a new cheap boom mic stand I got for my mic, and perhaps mount my camera on it as well. With the introduction of that, means I can do away with this desk hack of the wood with clamps. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for your support.
So yeah, so I started off as cheap as I possibly could. It was literally a plank of 2x2 running across the corner desk and then holding my microphone, as well as a clamp to be able to do overhead shots for products. So as I said, definitely a good microphone. Invest your money in first and foremost. Lighting is definitely also important. Obviously, we've got lighting here so you can see the stuff, but having the lighting secondary will actually improve the next point. So you can start off with a 3-point lighting system, which I'll cover off in a moment, but if you're going to start off with just one, that's completely fine as well. So having the good lighting actually helps this third point, which whether you've got a spare phone, you're all mobile developers, I'm sure you've got a few phones hanging around. It's definitely something you can use in creating any videos, because the lighting actually helps regardless of the great phone that you might have for an iPhone. They actually make for really good webcams as well. And even if you've got a webcam, the lighting will help. So there's just a picture of my setup at the moment. Kind of invested a little bit more in that sort of stuff. So I've got the 2 lighting system plus the boom mic over the top. I like to keep my microphone out of shot. And then I've got some Steam Deck and stuff, Steam Deck. I always confuse that because of the Steam Deck control thing. These Stream Decks are what you can help there for pressing buttons, which are really cool. If you want to ever invest in these things, you can program whatever buttons you want to run macros and stuff like that. So it's not a streaming device at all. You can automate anything you like. In case you are interested, there is my Amazon store. Again, not trying to upsell, but if you want to see the gear that I'm using, just hit that QR code. You'll see some of the stuff if you are interested in investing. So when it comes to lighting, as I covered off just before, we've got a 3-point lighting system. So the main light, which is the most important light, is called the key light. And if you are going to invest, is just start with that 1 key light. If you want to spend that little bit more and get a fill light, so the key light just gives you lighting from one side to give you that sort of shadow. You don't want to create this really dramatic shadow where you see half of your face like an eclipse of the moon, but it's mainly just to give you that little bit of drama or dramatic look to it. You fill the other side with a small percentage lower than the key light, so you get a little bit of a balance, so you're not blurring your face out with complete overexposure. And the third part there is having a key light. If you want to go to that third step, is just a light that sort of comes at the back of your head and sort of creates that so you can see the shape of your head. Again, this is a lot to cover, so I'm sorry that we're going to go over this pretty quickly. So some of the tips that you might want to cover off. So how do you start off with choosing a channel name? So that's an interesting one, because I've seen so many channels create their channels and then realize that they're actually one of 100 with the exact same name. Thankfully, YouTube's changed things. Now you have got these tags where you've got an at, and then an actual symbol, or whatever your name is. So one thing, definitely do your homework and make sure that you've got a unique name. Otherwise, people are going to confuse you. In confusing you, they may not find you. I'd recommend becoming a channel member of a creator that you admire. So if there's someone that you like in your niche, that you really like the way they create their videos, their content, definitely get amongst them and become a member. So being a channel member of a YouTube channel means that you pay once a month based on their terms, so you get different perks. But being part of that channel membership exposes you to the community. So it might be the fans that watch that particular channel. You might get a little bit closer to the creator to be able to rub shoulders with them at some stage. And definitely do some homework of whatever you plan to do. So when it comes to thinking about what your niche is, go out there and do some searches and see if there's anyone covering that. Because at the end of the day, YouTube is a supply and demand thing. So if your supply is in incredible demand, then you're onto something. But if there's so much supply that no one cares about stuff out there, you just will waste your time. The other big tip, a lot of people overlook this, and I'm still getting grips to it myself, is designing the thumbnail and title before you actually start the video. Because I mentioned that a second ago, is that when it comes down to creating that first 30 seconds, if your thumbnail doesn't look anything to what your intro looks like, they're going to be lost. They're going to lose interest straight away. So it's just that assurity to make sure that you keep consistent throughout your video. Similar to myself, I'm usually pretty quiet, but at the same time fairly animated, but be an amplified version of yourself. So it doesn't mean go crazy with your Mr. Beast vibes, but just the camera will sort of take down your energy. So even if you speak really quietly like this, it comes off really boring. So you need to elevate yourself if you can. So don't be fake, but just be that little bit more amplified. And I think Vanilla Ice, I think, was pretty much on the mark many, many moons and decades ago, is stop, collaborate, and listen. Because when it comes to it, similar to that second point there, if you can collaborate with another creator that you really like and fancy, whether it's something that you can learn, like the way they style, you can also explore and extend yourself to another newer audience, even though you might be a smaller creator. And of course, the listen part of that is listening to your comments and responding to them. The stop part, I'm not sure, but it made sense at the time. Making videos as long as they need to be. There's a lot of videos out there that have filler content, so the video itself might have been done in 3 minutes, but they drag it out to 10 minutes. That's a huge pet peeve for me. I just usually put it on 2 times speed and just get throughout the video. But you need to make the videos as long as it possibly need to be. So don't cut things out. You might have to be ruthless and say, well, I don't actually need this footage, but just get it down to the bare minimum of what's needed to get your video point across. And I suggest that if you do consider doing this, is start switching out the word algorithm, which you've probably heard countless number of times with YouTube. Just replace it with the word audience. Because if the algorithm or the audience doesn't like your content, it means the audience doesn't like it. So it comes down to the content itself is not pushed, it's actually pulled from the audience. So depending on your own likes and dislikes, you'll be recommended based on your own viewing habits. So this is sometimes easier said than done. So don't focus on the subs or the subscribers. There is a strong correlation from what I've seen between the top part of this video, which is the number of views viewed over the course of the past year, versus the bottom half of the graph is where the subscribers have come in. So you can see there's almost pretty much a match between the higher number of views that you get, the more subscribers you get. If you don't get views, you don't get subs. So subs is pretty much irrelevant. Just look for your views. And again, another one I'm completely and utterly horrible at is comparison is the thief of joy. So it's extremely easy to compare yourself to another creator who's suddenly blowing up and you've been putting all this effort in and you're not getting any thank for it. At the end of the day, it comes down to your own personal journey. You put in whatever your why is when it comes down to creating the content. Why are you making this content? Are you doing it to make money, or are you doing it to educate people, or a mixture of both? So just try not to think about someone else, because it will distract you. Software-wise, there's a few things that I like to use. I personally use Final Cut Pro. There's a few paid options. Premiere Pro from Adobe is the other option. This has been getting rave reviews. I've never used it, so DaVinci Resolve is said to be really, really good. When it comes to thumbnail creation, I personally use Sketch and Photoshop. There's a free, I don't know what's available for free, I can't remember. And in terms of ideation, I tend to use Miro like a lot of people do for consultancy. It's just a way to just spitball ideas. If you are into the streaming side of things, again, I would recommend, didn't cover this explicitly, but I would recommend deciding on whether or not are you doing videos, are you doing shorts, are you doing streaming? I would recommend that you start with one of those. Try not to mix it up too much, but if you decide to do 2, then I'd recommend streaming and full-length videos. So I'm sure this is the question that many of you are thinking up until this point, so it's the awkward question, how much can you make? So I'll reveal a little bit of the secret there. So this is the milestones over the course of my journey for at least the main channel, which is the main one that's monetized. So when it comes to, prior to being monetized, I got up to about 162,000 views, which is pretty healthy and pretty happy about that. I had 8,000 watch hours, so that's twice as many watch time hours as I needed to have monetized. But I still wasn't at the 1,000 mark yet, so it meant I got nothing. I was just inching towards it. So once I finally hit the 1,000 mark, I got 79 cents. So that was a huge fun, yeah. But itself is a lot of rewarding. You'll see a lot of videos out there that a lot of people rejoice the fact that they actually made their first cent, because it's a long slog to get to this particular point. Things did look a little bit up towards that point, so this is again the next 1,000 mark. 12,000 views, this is on the previous month, so I'm just sort of using the views as a collective. The first row there, just to differentiate that's a cumulative, whereas these other ones are the previous month's figures. So we've got a monthly of about $125. I think that's US, I think. And then if you look at that just from an AdSense point of view, so from an ad revenue, it was $63. So that gap is actually coming from channel membership, and that's people that come to your channel actually. I'm fortunate and actually quite, just blown away the fact that people will pay money to be a member of my channel, which is crazy. So that's the delta there. So that's people paying every month, whatever it is, and based on the tiers and based on the perks that you put every month is what people sign up for. And if you're watching anyone, AG Nation, hello. Then we've got the third point. We've got 3,000. So you can see these things are slowly looking on the up. It's actually looking okay. So 245 odd for the month of September. Again, mostly ad revenue. But again, some of it came from, thankfully, from my channel members. And looking on the side there, you've also got 1,800 watch hours for that month, which again is pretty, I'm pretty stoked about that sort of figure. And finally, not quite there yet, just short of 4,000, but again, we're sort of slowly encroaching that 300 mark. So here's a fun little view. I thought I'd do this. I probably spent more time creating this graphic than the whole slide, so I hope you enjoy this. It goes for about 10 seconds. So this is a view of growth of YouTube over the past 3 years. So you can see there it's slowly growing. And there's almost a correlation again between the ad revenue to the number of subscribers, which is kind of creepy. And that itself is the end of this presentation. So I'll open it up to any questions if you might have any.
Thank you very much, Alexi. I will say there's a lot of parallels between what you're doing there and what we did when we started doing virtual music groups.
Yep.
Like audio was the most important, lighting was the second most important. Everything, like video was the easiest part.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Once you solve those two. Before I throw it over, I think Baz had a question. Don't forget to pop your hands up if you have a question. I'm sure you might have mentioned it already, but I might have missed it. How many videos do you make a month, approximately?
Good question. I didn't cover it. I cover about one lately for this particular release. There's a new game that I've been playing called Dinkum, which is made by an Aussie developer, made with Unity. Awesome game if you're into that sort of farming stuff. I've been putting out about 4 videos a week this week because it's coming up to a release, but usually I try to do 1 to 2 a week.
I guess follow-up question is how much time do you invest in each of those that you make?
Rough
guesstimate.
I would say probably between 5 to 10 hours every video.
So it's half a full-time job for four videos a week.
Yeah, and that's probably being pessimistic as well. Yeah, because there's a lot of time involved in creating the content. So one, you've got to play the game to a certain point because most of my content is game related. So you've got to reach that point to make you've got to capture the video, you've got to set up the scenario, you've got to go then edit it, you've got to voice over. So I've got a rough rule. So if I've got a 5-minute video, it'll take me 30 minutes to record that.
Okay.
Because it takes me like multiple times to record over and over to get what I think is okay.
Yeah, then your character dies.
Yeah.
2 seconds into the game, you've got to start
So
again.
I usually set up my script. So I've got a script that I set up that I say this is what I want the overall flow of the video goes by. I've got in my mind the footage that I want to get. Then I get all the footage, edit it down, then do the voiceover, thumbnails, of course. Yeah, so it's a lot of time.
Baz?
Cool. Thanks, Alexi. That was really interesting. Pretty good. I've got a kind of similar question in 2 parts. External things. TikTok. Like, do you see that as a threat or like an extra marketing channel? Like, is it taking viewers away or is it an extra sort of channel for you to market things? And the elephant in the room at the moment, AI. Do you think AI is a threat to creators? Like, if people can just type up a script and have some AI just put some graphics on it and read it out, like is that going to take?
No,
people
definitely
away?
the elephant in the room. So I'll cover off the first one. So the first one was around technical tech content. Is that what you mean? Or
TikTok.
TikTok itself, I haven't delved into too much myself. It's I personally have a thing against it. I've done a few videos on it, but at the same time, I know a lot of creators are actually making a fair bit of money over in the States around creating consumer content, consumer videos around it. I haven't been across the news to comment on where it's at the moment. The second part of it was around AI. There's actually a new feature that's been added to YouTube. So every time you do an upload to a video to YouTube Studio, you get a choice there and says, is this, and I might show you for a sec, but does this video contain any artificial or altered content? So that's a brand new option, which is great in the fact that they're doing that. So you do have to opt in to say yes or no to that particular question. There's definitely a lot of wins around creating scripts. I know there's a lot of videos out there to help you build scripts. So ChatGPT, from that point of view, definitely helps you from that element. There's a lot of videos out there and a lot of services coming out there. So you take a live stream and say, here, go and cut down my edited live stream. And it takes all the good bits. I haven't used it, I haven't tried it. But in that case, it's actually a helper. Definitely a time saver to save that 5 to 10 hours plus per video that you're going to spend on it. But when it comes to other altered contents, again, I've got sort of mixed views around AI personally. But yeah, I think there's a place for it, but I think there's getting a lot of influx.
Hi. Hello? Okay. You mentioned the importance of a microphone. What qualities, based on your experience, what qualities would you look for in a good microphone, and what qualities should you avoid?
So what you want to do is, in my case, I ended up getting a mixed solution. So I ended up going with what's called a shotgun mic, which I could put on the top of a DSLR, which I could use for sporting events. It's got really good take directly in front, which means I can have it above me and it takes my voice fairly well. You can invest in another thing called a condenser mic, which depending on the pattern that it picks up. So I'm always telling off my family for being too noisy in the room next door because I'm trying to record and it picks up everything. It's very, very loud, very, very sensitive. So depends on whether you want to do vocals. So a couple of my videos, I've actually started to do some vocals, music videos in there as well. So you can use a condenser mic, which has a different pattern. So it covers not directly in front, but a little bit more surrounded, but doesn't pick up right behind you. So depending on whether you do or don't want to have clicking sounds or clicking around in environments, there's a few different options. And then obviously a lapel mic, which is your best option. It just means you are tied to it, but I'm fairly mobile because I've got the little thing on me. So there's a few different things. I would start off, if you're going to go ultra cheap, is definitely go with a lapel mic just to start you off, because it's going to give you the best value and best sound without the fuss of any other electricals. Does that answer your question? I'm not sure.
I had a follow-up question to that.
Yep.
While we grab the mic over here. You had a boom arm in your one. How important do you think that is for avoiding the vibration of you typing and other things off your desk?
I think it's great. So there's a few different options. The one I've got is the overhead one. There's also a low arm one, both of which, depending on the microphone that you use, actually keeps away. I haven't had any sort of bumping issues personally, but the desk that I invested in was actually a solid hardwood, I'm not advertising, but desky desk. Really, really good because it's really well constructed. I can sit and stand anytime I want. Very sturdy, and I haven't had a single issue with it. It might have if you've got a laminate table, maybe it might cause different, yeah. But personally, I haven't had a single issue with that because it's made of like hardwood.
I noticed in your retention graph, it went up. How does retention go up?
So that usually happens if I say something that people go and rewatch again. So it might be showing something on screen and they're like, oh, well, let me just go back. And so you double tap and go back 15 seconds and rewatch it. Or if the video is shared and say, check out this at 1 minute 43, is where they get that spike. So sometimes you'll see it sort of flatline, and usually, unless you're really, really special, it's going to go down because people just will lose interest. And it's a matter of trying to not necessarily drag it out, but really keep them engaged throughout the whole video.
Do you ever go back and remove old content?
I do. Yeah, I do. So you have to reach a point where there's two parts to this. There's a lot of time where you've got content that goes out there and you think, okay, this is going to be great, but it's not as great as you might have thought. So you let it sit there and think, okay, well, it's going to try and gain some traction at some stage. There's been a few videos that I've decided are dead. They're just gone, the horse is already sprung. But there's been one or two videos that I've decided, at one stage I was like, do I click that button? Because with a video, you can decide, do I keep it public? Do I make it private? Do I make it to channel members? Or do I delete it? So I've never actually deleted videos, but I've unlisted videos that I think are just not doing anything. So to answer your question, yes. But it's a hard ask because I'm never sure if am I going to do it and it's going to take off tomorrow? there's always that risk. And there's a couple of videos that I decided I'm glad that I didn't do that, because suddenly they give you a stupid rating system. I can give you some little screens. Give you some
high risk.
I don't know if you can see that. Oh, actually, I'll probably have to move. Quick glance at some analytics, which I'll show you in just a sec.
Any more questions?
You see that okay? I'm going to have to drive it like this. I can't see it. I've lost my window.
Go down. Yeah, you're on it.
So yeah, so if you look at these contents, sorry, this is really awkward doing it like this. There is a statistic. Actually, let me find it off screen so I can show you what it is.
Smart.
Trying to do it sideways. Actually, this is easier. So you can see here that I've got a little statistic that this taunts you every single time you put a video out. So it gives you a rating over the past 10 videos of how well this video compared to the last 10 that you put out. So you're always almost chasing your tail to try and get a 1 out of 10. And so the idea here is that for the X number of minutes or days or hours or weeks of that particular point, it compares it to other videos and see how it compares. So this particular one, low percentage, so 1.2% of people are actually clicking on it, which means my thumbnail sucks. But at least from a views point of view, it's actually quite healthy. It's 3 out of 10 over the past 10 videos. So yeah, so that sort of stuff does mess with your head. That's the one thing that I've definitely struggled with, is I don't spend too much time on social media, but I spend far too long on Google Analytics in YouTube.
Can I do one more? Yeah, right. Do you have like other channels that are like competitors, or is there?
Yeah. So there are definitely competitors out there. So for each of these, often I think of them more as sort of like almost opportunities for collaboration. So there's opportunities to take that view of saying they are a competitor, and sometimes they are, but often they are a case of you to be able to get a new audience or break into their market. But yeah, the more friends that you can make on YouTube, I think the better it is.